everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. So before we jump into today's 12-minute Bible journaling entry, I just wanted to give you just a little feedback, little devotion, whatever you might want to call it, about why I chose this project and where the idea kind of came from. I'm gonna grab something, woohoo, back. So today we are going to be in Romans 8:28, and our project kind of looks like this. And so recently, like today, I was at the good old Hobby Lobby looking at some stamps just because I wanted some inspiration and something new, and they were 40% off. And I found this cool kind of scribbly flower rose kind of thing. And I kind of looked at it and I liked it, and I kind of thought it would be a great inspiration for one of these 12-minute Bible journaling entries. And the more I kind of thought about it and was thinking, okay, I don't want it to just be about some pretty flowers, and I don't want it to just be about making an entry. I really started thinking about why these appealed to me and what they could mean to other people. And I kind of started looking at them and just really started thinking about they represent, of course, flowers and roses. And flowers and roses are always meant or seen as just these emblems of perfection and these just these epitomes, these epitomes of beauty and perfection. And I kind of was like, well, that's not my life and that's not really anybody's life because we live in this world. But as I got to looking and thinking about these little squiggly flowers, I kind of got to thinking about how those would correlate with the idea of a perfect life. And I kind of was like, you know what? These are messy. They're just squiggly. They're definitely not perfect. But they're still beautiful. They still represent something beautiful. And so I kind of like that idea of taking something that's maybe meant to be less than perfect and still choosing to see it as something perfect. And I think that's what we have to do with our life sometimes. We can't always have a perfect life. We're not going to. We live in a fallen world. Things happen. Bad things happen. But we can choose how we choose to filter that and how we choose to reflect that back on the world. I'm wearing my Not Today Satan shirt because it's one of my favorites. And I really feel like we kind of have to take this hand in hand. So our scripture today, of course, is Romans 8:28, and it says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." And I know I have used this particular scripture reference before. I'll leave the link right up there to that video. It's a lot different. It's just it's a full length, very mixed media kind of one, and it's one of my favorites because it's based off Wicked. Whole nother story. But this scripture has always been one of my favorites because it was in a musical I was in years ago, and I still sing that song in my head all the time. I won't do that for you right now. Because it just talks about all things work for good. And I think that's something in the messy, scribbly, hard things in life. We have to make the choice of what are we going to reflect back on the world? Are we going to reflect back the negativity and the bad things that happen to us? Or are we going to reflect back the scripture that all things are going to work for good? We might not know what it is. We might not have a clear path. But that's what faith is saying, you know what, I don't understand why this happened to me. I don't understand why things have gone this way, but I'm just going to hold on to the fact that something good's going to come of this. You know, it's something I don't know if I've ever talked about on my channel. As someone who has dealt with sexual abuse, it can become an identity. It can become a cage. Of fear of people learning your secret, of people thinking of you differently, of just all of these things that can hold you captive and just make you fearful. But after a few years of just some real good counseling and some Jesus, I really started to want to not be held captive by that fear and by that secret anymore. And so I started incorporating it into my talks whenever I would give my testimony or whenever I would speak at women's groups. And the amount of women that have come to me at various points and said, thank you for being so brave. And of course, I always think they're super brave because here you are just spilling your guts to a stranger. But me being brave, reflecting my idea of putting good back into the world allowed them to break some chains and allowed them to find some freedom. Even it wasn't an instantaneous thing, but it was their first steps to finding some freedom from what had happened to them. And so that's just kind of, I think, why the scripture and that idea has always kind of been big in my head, is just to hold fast to the idea that we don't understand what's going to happen, we don't know, but it's going to work out for the good of ourselves and of others. We just have to make the choice to filter the things, the messy, scribbly, not so perfect things in our life through that filter of, by golly, something good is going to come out of this, and so I'm just going to hold fast to that. So I hope you will stick around and see today's project. And if there's a verse that you maybe want to see in a 12-minute Bible journaling style, leave that down below. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys later.